We have a really powerful topic today, one that is very timely as far as where we are in the span of the year. We've hit the end of Q1 and we are getting into Q2. So that means that no matter who you are or where you are, it's the time for review and it's the time for figuring out what went well and what could do better and have your sort of keep, stop, start of where you are. But the thing that we want to talk about today is the uncertainty that comes around that. There's absolutely no way that any of us can tell the future, regardless of what data point or what strategy that we use. There will always be some uncertainty. So it's important that we begin to build that into the conversation that we have around this review process. So that was really the core, the seed of what we wanted to talk about today. But from a leadership angle, we talk a lot about the statistical way to do it, the operational way to do it. But I'd really like to hear, and I'm sure everyone else would like to really get some juicy insights from fantastic leaders about where we as leaders can begin to prepare.
My name is Divya Gupta, and I'm the president and CEO of Grids Consulting. We are a global boutique brand marketing firm, 100% focused on the data-driven and strategies for for-profit and the nonprofit sector, and of course, a lot of personal branding as well. So with that, I want to introduce our dearest Jeannie Francis.
Goodness. Well, hello, everyone. If we've not met before, my name is Jeannie Francis. I'm a fractional COO and business architect. And for over 25 years, I've been optimizing businesses, large and small. And I do this by building the teams, the tools, and the tactics that your organization needs to start retaining more of your revenue through streamlined operations. It's all about putting the pieces together and making them work in the best ways possible for you, in your unique way, for your unique brand. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. I think from here, we're going to pass on to Shireen. And Shireen, you are an MPH, a distinguished public health executive, over 20 years of executive leadership. And you and I speak that same language of building departments and directing large-scale operations. You have been providing a vision, a leadership, and real data-driven strategy execution with social impact initiatives. So welcome, Shireen. What a fantastic, diverse, and interesting background you bring to us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
And I have the honor of introducing a dear friend and a business associate, I think going on almost a decade at this point. And let me honor to introduce Venki, who absolutely loves spending time with the communities and understanding problems and solutions through the eyes of social entrepreneurs and change makers. So welcome, Venki. Amazing to have you here.
Thanks, Divya, and thank you, Jeannie and Shireen. Lovely to be with you.
Yeah. We have a really powerful topic today, one that is very timely as far as where we are in the span of the year. We've hit the end of Q1 and we are getting into Q2. So that means that no matter who you are or where you are, it's the time for review and it's the time for figuring out what went well and what could do better and have your sort of keep, stop, start of where you are. But the thing that we want to talk about today is the uncertainty that comes around that. There's absolutely no way that any of us can tell the future, regardless of what data point or what strategy that we use. There will always be some uncertainty. So it's important that we begin to build that into the conversation that we have around this review process. So that was really the core, the seed of what we wanted to talk about today. But from a leadership angle, we talk a lot about the statistical way to do it, the operational way to do it. But I'd really like to hear, and I'm sure everyone else would like to really get some juicy insights from fantastic leaders about where we as leaders can begin to prepare. How can we adjust and be prepared, not just for uncertainty, not for when things go wrong, but for when things go right? How do we make a plan for what we don't know? And how do we as leaders bring that to our people and implement and execute in the best way possible?
Yeah. So question would be, as a leader, how do you account for change in uncertain times? Right? And we've all had our own share of experiences. We've all been there, done that with a lot of transitions and uncertainties. So as a leader, and I'd love to get both of your feedback and opinions on this, how do you account for change in a situation of an uncertain time? And then with the world tackling all these big changes like the pandemic, how do you make small strategic adjustments to your plans and operations so you can stay ahead as a leader, right? So whoever wants to take us first, we're open forum discussion.
Shireen, go for it first.
Sure, I'll take that one. Thank you. So, I think that being a leader during a time of uncertainty is when you really get to tap into your skill set and your toolbox as a professional. It is the moment when you actually, as a leader, first have to self-reflect and get and take stock of, okay, how do I feel in this moment? What are my skills and tools to be able to lead my team through this moment? And then how can I bring in folks that may account for my weaknesses to help uplift my team and move them to the next season or the next iteration of whatever's happening. And so during these uncertain times, it really does start with the leader, starting with a level of self-reflection. It's very easy to go into reactive mode and to go into a space where you have to do and you have to respond. All of those are important. And being strategic and thoughtful during times of uncertainty with your team is critical as a leader. It is the number one thing that will help you chart your way through a path for success.
Agreed. Very much agreed. I mean, that the coreness of what you were sharing is the compassion component of it. I mean, let's not forget to be compassionate towards our team. And that's the whole idea of being authentic leadership part, right? So thank you for sharing that, Shireen. Okay, Vicky, what do you think?
Let me compliment and supplement what Shireen so beautifully put. I'll just, without repeating what Shireen said, I just want to add a couple of things. I'm not putting the spotlight on just myself. I'm going to talk about all the amazing leaders that I come across on a regular basis. And for me, adaptability is a very big value, is a very big factor. And external circumstances keep changing. The world, there are always surprises, and there are some of the surprises of the kind of disasters that happen, which we don't want them to happen. But I'll just share 3 very quick examples. Last July, in this northwestern state of Punjab, there were torrential rains and entire villages, thousands of villages were submerged, right? Mm-hmm. And we had a team of 75 people who work as part of the Round Glass Foundation. They're all people who are working on climate change and women's empowerment, self-help groups and sports for kids and so on. But guess what they were doing? They were all getting into rafts and boats and delivering food and so on to the villages that were cut off from the rest of society, medicines and so on. Mm-hmm. A quick example, number 2, I'm sitting in the global headquarters of Ashoka, the premier organization that brings social entrepreneurs together around the world. When the tsunami happened, I was actually returning from India on that very day. The tsunami that happened in 2000. 2003 or 2004, mm-hmm. I saw all the Ashoka fellows who were working in Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India, and so on and so forth. I think even Pakistan as well, who stepped up, who pivoted so quickly, right? That ability to pivot and be adaptable, use your resources for what is the most important need at that time. Mm-hmm. And I'll close with the last example very quickly, Divya, since you brought up the pandemic. Again, we all know what happened in different parts of the world, but in India, in my work with Safe Water Network, I saw my colleagues, villages and towns and cities were barricading themselves because they thought if that village had a pandemic, had someone with COVID, if he or she comes into my village, all the misconceptions were there. And we run all these water kiosks in very underserved communities. And we took special permission from the government and made sure that these kiosks were up and running right in the middle of the pandemic. Because guess what? Imagine not having access to safe water in the middle of the pandemic, right? So pivoting, adaptability, the resilience, and being able to channel resources where needed at the right time. I think that's the hallmark of a leader. And so I hope that supplements what Shireen so well laid out so well.
That was spot on the nose. You really read my mind with that, Vicky, about utilization of resources and adjustment of priorities. Where do the resources need to go now? It's not always exactly the same. And that way you can be responsive. And then going and bringing in what Shireen had mentioned about being strategic when we reflect and think about what it is that we need to bring. Well, I need to be a leader who thinks of that, who thinks ahead, and who prepares myself to be flexible with those resources. So it's really a powerful, powerful way to think about how you can implement change, not just let's be reactive, let's fix what needs to be, done, but really instead of what is the best way that I can begin to use what I have to achieve what I need right now.
And I think the other thing that looping it back to our theme of being proactive about things, right? One thing that stood out for me from what you shared, Venki, is how important it is to partner with the like-minded partners. Let it be even vendors, let it be whoever, because in your time of need, in a time of crisis, I'm saying, no, I got to take care of myself and my family. But my other 4 team members are saying, but we have to be on the boat and help and rescue other people. So the criticalness of if you have to proactively look into things, right? Pick the right team members, pick the ones that actually attach and synergize with your value system and the culture and all those details, because we're so practical about looking at the skill sets, but there's so much more that goes in it. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jeannie, why don't you ask the next question?
I was thinking as we were looking at what really stood out there, it's the humanity of it, right? It's the humanity that makes that connection. And that, into the next question is, crisis and change is not always about the organization itself. Sometimes it's about you. Sometimes it's about the individual. You have a new position, you have a transition in your career, there's a transition in your industry. These are things that we have to adjust to as leaders as well. Sometimes we enter into new positions and we haven't inherited the healthiest systems, the healthiest organizations, and we've been called in to help repair that. So when we begin to look at that as leaders, as making these transitions, career transitions, personal transitions, life transitions, how do we bring that and take that into account in our business professional lives as well?
Shireen, let me take the first quick response and hand it to you this time, if you're okay. Jeannie, that's a great question. The way I have navigated that, Jeannie, is first of all, you need to love what you're doing, right? And then as they say, if you love what you do, it's never work, right? It's just your passion. So I've always tried to bring that mindset to whatever I do, Jeannie, and Divya knows this because we have collaborated on a number of projects, and so that's the mindset. Jeannie, I want to just say that, and Divya also mentioned this. I think if our compass is the values that we believe in, right? Then it doesn't matter. We might shift geographies, we might shift jobs, we might shift clients, we might shift the emphasis of what we are doing during a particular phase. So for me, empathy, being grounded, being open-minded to learn, not judging others. These are some of the core values that always drives me, and I try to. I'm not perfect. I keep learning every day. So if I know that these are the values that I'm going to be driven by, led by, and that's my compass, then to me, being in a new setting and mindfulness, right? Talk about willingness to listen and being mindful, right? So if I have those values right, I at the start of my day, I think, okay, if this is right, put me in any new situation, put me in any complicated situation or a complex environment. If I have these right, everything else will pan out, and that's what has actually helped me, work in different contexts, in different situations, and different scenarios. I'll give Shireen the chance to add to this, and then I have a very specific example I will come to. But over to Shireen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Venki. So I think that when we look at transitions for folks that are in leadership, and I have coached others through this and also have been coached myself, the first thing that I either encourage other leaders to ask themselves, or I ask myself, is how do I want to feel in the next job? What do I want that to look like? And I don't focus on the title or the organization I focus on factors that are not necessarily tangible, but that are the most critical. For example, do you want flexibility? If so, what does that look like in your next job? Do you want recognition? If so, what does that look like? Do you want to be a leader of a large team? Or do you want to be a leader of a small team? Do you want to have a certain level of authority within an organization? Or are you comfortable being one of many senior vice presidents, et cetera, in a large organization? So there are factors on quality of life and quality of being that I integrate and that I ask first. Because it's very easy when we're in a transition as a leader, maybe we get laid off or we leave the organization or we decide to go on our own. A variety of different instances could occur. But the first thing that I ask myself is, how do I want to feel in this next role? Do I want to be recognized? Do I want a challenge? And what does that challenge look like? Do I want the same? Maybe there's a lot of life happening and the leader just needs status quo. So defining those components of quality of life and how you operate as a leader or how you want to operate as a leader in the next iteration of your job, your career, et cetera, are going to really help you make decisions that are right for you in that moment. And so I've been in careers and jobs where I've led portfolios in 7 African countries, working as a contractor for USAID, and traveling a lot, never spent much time in my home. I got to see amazing countries in East and Central Africa. And at the same time, my home life was very little to none, right? And so I just moved to a new city, to DC, and I didn't know anything about the city. I didn't have any friends or connections or networks. I was on a plane. And I was doing amazing work, working with the ministers of health in Tanzania and other countries. I'm helping them prepare for the next epidemic. And once that experience ended, I had to ask myself, what do you want now as a leader? Do you want to be on a plane every month? Do you want to cultivate relationships in your hometown? Are you looking to lead a big portfolio or do you want to scale down?
Great questions.
And then depending on where you are and what stage in life you are, the ability to sit down and ask yourself those critical questions will help you navigate that with so much more ease. And honestly, I had to do this with myself just yesterday.
Wow. You're preparing for this conversation, weren't you?
What do you want to feel? and then write it down so that you don't forget as you network, meet new people, get plugged into new opportunities, etc.
So well said. So well said. Venki, you want to add your, you wanted to share some stories and experiences.
No, I just very quickly, I started working in this beautiful state of Punjab in northwestern India. I have worked across the world during my Ashoka years. I have worked in many states of India. I've worked in Southeast Asia and so on. But I had never stepped into the state of Punjab. But I was invited to join the team and work with the community in this lovely state. But just went with an open mind, and it was a great learning to understand. It might be the same country, it might be the same geography, but the culture it was so different. The nuances, the sensitivities, the what matters and what is important to that culture and that society. So just being open to learning and receiving, I think, is a big factor in how we adapt to change.
Agreed.
So
By the way, I'm part Punjabi.
Punjab, yeah.
I was going to say I'm part Punjabi, so welcome to my state.
And I don't have to tell you, Divya, about the role of the gender roles and how it is perceived and how it is also expected and perceived, and how you have to be mindful of various sensitivities, including gender roles, etc.
Absolutely. And I guess to your point, let's take exactly what you shared with where we are today in the United States, right? The gender equality and mindfulness around, all of that. We've got into the diversity, inclusion, and equity, and those components have really picked up and moved on. But literally a few days ago, June, who works with us, we were having a conversation. I said, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Or no, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And we exactly, all of us here are going, no, we're not. Because we've all had our own share. Even more so recently, we've all had our own share of dealing with it, unfortunately, right? So, but keeping that in your mind and making some conscious efforts on both genders, just not for male, but even the female genders. I think that is so important. And we have to just keep working hard towards bringing that equality to a balance, which hasn't gotten there yet, I think, which hasn't gotten there yet.
That seems like one of those powerful self-reflection things that helps you make those decisions later on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that most of us have been in a situation where we felt powerless to be able to make the change or implement or do the thing that we wanted to be able to do to help out, to fix the situation, what have not. So when we turn around and the shoe is on the other foot, as leaders, we're extremely aware that we don't want anyone else to go through that. The type of leaders that are the ones who turn around and bring up the people behind them and feel that clearing that path, clearing that obstacle is not just the right thing to do, but it's the responsibility of the leader who learned it.
So I want to jump into the next question, which kind of gears towards what we currently have. So pandemic is always a great example. Then we have 2008 transitions, when that was a great example, when nobody was really planned and prepared for how bad things were really going to get and impact our operations, right? And so many of us, like us, have had our annual plans and things, but now we're forced to pivot all of that, right? And if you are not a small business and you have a team of, say, 20 people, right? How do you make small moves as a leader, subtle moves, where your team is not freaked out as well and gone off the balance because there was a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of self-doubt and doubts, period, when the communication is limited between senior leadership and there's a big gap, right? So as a leader, from a leadership perspective, what small moves would you recommend or have you made based on your experience in any situation where you had to, I can't tell the team all of this yet,
I had one experience when I was working for a for-profit company on the East Coast, and our leader went on maternity leave unexpectedly for a while, and I was in charge of the entire team of about 9 to 10 employees who were all women. And it was a moment where, the individual who was leading and guiding us was gone, and I had to step into that leadership role. And at the same time, our client funding was being shifted. So also needing to lead the team through, here's a management transition, and here is a scope of work transition at the same time, right? And what I found in that moment was individual discrete check-ins with folks really helped people feel secure and confident to be able to do their job during a time of uncertainty. And that tactic, helping this team of young adult women transition their scope of work and work with new leadership was key for me to make sure that I was checking in with each individual in a meaningful way, not a, hey, let's run through the agenda. What are the to-dos for the week, right? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Where do you feel pressure points? Is there a rub anywhere that we can help alleviate? How can we support each other? Those types of strategies and check-ins were really critical at a personal level and an interpersonal level. Also helped the team bring challenges to the group in an easier way, because there was ease with how we talked about the transition and how we supported each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would encourage folks to have these micro discrete check-ins. Now, as a manager or a leader, it sucks up a lot of your time, full disclosure.
Mhm.
It takes up a lot of time. So there's no getting around that. But I think there is a point where, as a leader, you have to think about effectiveness and efficiency and which one you're going to toggle up or toggle down in order to help the entire sum and body of work moving forward.
And it's an investment in your team because it all comes right
Very much.
back. So I completely understand what you mean. Yeah, Becky,
Absolutely.
would you like to share something? Yeah.
Well, just the time investment is high, but the loyalty return on investment.
Oh, yes.
It's absolutely
Well
through the roof.
said.
And again, it comes back to that humanity.
Yes.
The leader who is the human and connects with their people on a human level and isn't afraid to say, hey, you know what? Things are a little wonky right now. Let's talk about it and be honest. Let's not pretend that everything is just wonderful. Let's do this together. That transparency is so powerful for individuals and for groups.
And just one end cap to that, they say there's an anecdote that says people don't leave jobs, they leave managers.
That's right. That's right. That is so true.
So when that happens, where's the emphasis, right? And who should be elevating their skills, their input, their investment, right, during these times of uncertainty?
Yeah, well said. Well said. Okay, Becky, what do you have to add?
Well, not much. Yeah, Shireen already stated this, but I'll say in just a different way that trusting your team members and letting go. It's easier said than done, but trusting your team members and letting go is so crucial. It's and also how do you make each other better all the time, right? So that's I think that's very important in my view. Yeah, that's all, Divya.
Yeah, no, thank you, Venki. I do want to take a quick second and thank everybody that's been joining us. We had over 30 people join us at one point. And so if you have any questions for any one of us, please just go ahead and put it in the comment and I'm checking it. So we'll be able to answer it right away. And again, we're all on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach us offline as well, please feel free to send us a connect request and we'll be happy to do so as well. So let me jump into the next question, right? With Q1 ending, how important is it to monitor the many ups and downs of the market in our economy, the industry trends, and just how we can stay proactive in adjusting if need? Because I think so far with all this stuff that's happening in the world, we've been all very reactive because it just showed up. and some of us have put some plans together, but are we really prepared, right? There's a lot of conversations going on about so much happening in the world, right? Let's talk about a space army coming up soon, right? The robots are also coming up, right? So it's like we have so much fear and anxiety that has stepped into the teams, right? So anything you would like to say on plans for proactiveness?
Flexibility is key. Being flexible helps you be proactive because then you can have a plan A and B and C. Folks that tend to be kind of rigid or stuck in their management styles, perhaps not open to other styles or other ways of doing things, may not have or be open to the flexibility that then helps them get through those situations.
Well said. Yeah, well said. Venki?
Well, I have responded to that in other ways earlier. The only thing I'll add is it's actually slightly tangential, but I am very privileged to work with an amazing cadre of young people from whom I learned so much. Even this conversation, I had a brainstorming session with someone this morning as to what will really resonate at such a conversation, because this was such a very well designed and well thought out thing. So continuing to build that cadre of young people, that team of young people who really challenge you in a good way and who really help you grow and not let you assume that you know everything. So for me, that has been a very essential part of continuing to stay ahead of the curve, Divya.
No, so well said. So well said. Jeannie, would you like to add something to that?
Vinky, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth, because my feeling, the only thing I could add is humility.
Yeah.
It's humility.
Yeah.
The powerful
Agreed.
leader, the person who is able to say, I don't know everything. I hear so many leaders just complaining about the youth, and they don't do this and they don't do that. Yes, but what they do bring to the table is outstanding, and we don't have it. So it's important to be able to have the humility and the sense of self to say, yes, I can reach out to a subject matter expert. I can reach out to someone in my network. I can ask for help. I can ask for input. It doesn't mean that it's a character flaw, that I don't know anything. It means that I am making an investment in getting this as right as I can.
Agreed. And I do have to add, because I have a strategic planning background, right? So if we have to think about planning, and we talk about some documents, and we have to think about some process too, and because all of that has to combine with our practical way of operations as well, right? So then we are now working about blending our value system, our organization culture, and then we're blending it and putting it into a goal format, actionable items. So we're able to monitor, we're tracking it, and moving forward together cohesively, with the team. And, we had a conversation with Danielle Estrada last month, about AI and incorporating AI with teams. And we had a very similar conversation as well, GD, about that, and how important it is to kind of like have that communication and openness and blending some of our personals to our professionals so we can kind of be together, right? So would you guys agree with like the importance of still having your planning and process and your documents, because but I've always said that. Otherwise, it's just a beautiful dream. But unless I put that in a doc, then it's a plan.
Absolutely. That's tangible.
Yeah, it's tangible. So, but anyway, Jeannie, on to you.
So speaking of tangibility, right? I have to ask the question of implementation of how we do things. Have there been any tools or any specific processes that you have found have kept your people engaged and kept the productivity good in times of especially uncertainty, but also just overall change?
Shireen, let me again quickly respond to that, and I will. Well, as contradictory as it sounds, investing in oneself to a certain extent is very important to be able to go out and face the world, I would say. So by which I mean, both for me and people I work with, we always make it a priority to really make the time for oneself. Jeannie, you started with the whole concept of self-reflection. We each have our own ways of grounding ourselves, of finding that North Star, as they say. It could be my daily yoga, or it could be that walk, that dusk time walk, or that evening walk, or those routines, and to be able to do that individually and together, and letting the team members also enjoy that and invest in that, I think is so important to keep your inspiration and motivation going. And I do, again, as it seems like a contradiction, but it actually enhances one's productivity and ability to deal with change and unexpected situations.
Well said. Yes. Well said. By the way, we're all yogis here as well. Double digits. So that's fantastic. It must be a common like-mindedness going on in our leadership.
It's a vibe.
Shireen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say similar in kind. I'm a planner. And so the tools that I found is being able to just exclude myself, sit down with a paper and pen, and just plan it out. I'm a project planner. I need structure, or I create it, whether it exists or
not. Yes.
That's leader. I'll create my own structure. There you go.
So I'm like, we got to get through this. Give me 5 minutes to just write down these to-do lists, assign people to it, or get myself to-do list going. As a leader, you develop the skill to be able to see 3 or 4 steps ahead than the rest of your team. And sometimes your team may not see the 3 or 4 steps ahead, but you have to implement the right now tasks and strategies to get the team through. And so for me, getting quiet with a paper and pencil or my notes app on my phone or whatever it is, helps me think, well, if we do this now, a year or two later, it's going to lead us here. We don't want to do that. We want to do this instead, right? And be able to write down those to-dos or tasks or strategies. And that really helps me personally. I need a paper and pencil in every moment, or pen. I don't know, 1995.
It's the same thing.
There you go.
Same thing. Yes, it's the same thing. It's like we're talking about authentic leadership. So as you can tell in the back, I'm a musician, I'm an athlete, and all of the above. And the one thing I always say, I cannot still, till today, songwriting, I have to have a pen and paper. My best thoughts come out that way. When you write them down, right? When we write them down. So absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. The biggest things that I have ever planned, every funnel, every marketing website, everything has always begun with me scrolling down onto pen and paper, and from there it gets refined. But getting that first out, and that tangibility, the touching, there is something about that for me feels like you said, it's not a dream. I've made something real. I've taken it to the next step. And then from here, I can hand this piece of paper to someone. I can do things with this piece of paper. And so it really takes me to the next step. Like you said, Shireen, I've got my scaffolding now.
Yeah.
I know where I need to go. Where there was chaos, I have brought structure.
Yes.
So it feels very, very good. And that's an empowering place to start any change.
Yeah. And even for you, Venki, I mean, the same concept, even if it's not on pen and paper, your example of sharing what happened in Punjab and, bringing everyone together into that one plan cohesively, somehow the other that was done. So like to the counter that, there's a planning that's involved with us with pen and paper, but then you have real life situations. I got one too. We can't go without it. And it's really funny because I wonder if it's like our back, aging ourselves culture, right? Because we always went into meetings with a notepad and a paper and a pen. That's pretty much how it was always. And so for some of us, that's how we bring our thoughts out and our strategies out. I still have to write down the whole plan on a piece of paper before I put a proposal together for somebody else, because it has to come out here to here, then to here to the laptop.
But I will add one piece to that. And so there is, I have a management consulting background, and I think that management consultants in some way are trained to think in PowerPoint. And so there's a skill that we're actually trained to outline a project or an issue with a timeline. And here's the budget restrictions, and here is a risk benefit analysis, and here are some recommendations and solutions. So there is, a subset of folks who still do that level of like planning and thoughtful thinking ahead. It may come out obviously with a lot of different tools and outputs, but I do love the skill set that I have of thinking through PowerPoint. And aside is that I have a friend who's starting a business on landscape design and bringing in native plants. And she has a consulting background. And I saw her plan for a neighbor that was a pro bono project. Complete PowerPoint, 6 slides full of risk benefit analysis of where to put the native plants based on the sun, based on these things. So it's just a skill set that, it's applicable in so many different settings.
Yeah.
Very much.
Absolutely. Well, we are coming towards the end, but now we have the most important question, which is, we understand how mental wellness becomes a very big challenge. It already became a huge challenge. I feel like the young adults are still, more so the young adults, because I feel like, we as a little bit grown up than them, not by much, have still kind of gained some strength of understanding how do we cope with certain situations, how do we balance, that it's not the end of the world, that there are other strategies and solutions to get out of certain situations. But, unfortunately, I still see that mental wellness has been a very big component still for the young adults. So anything you could give, any advice you would like to give to our young adults on what can they do to prepare for the unexpected and unplanned transitions at work or even at home, because they all do kind of blend in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Any one of you can go first.
I'll just start. So I think that there is mental health and mental wellness is also tied to one's understanding, security, connection, trust within their workplace or their environment. And very often, folks that are early career professionals come into an environment aware of their skills, how they can contribute. Sometimes they're given opportunities to contribute and not contribute. My advice for them to help with the mental wellness is for them to keep stock of all the contributions that they've made to their teams, so that they have a Rolodex or they have a list out, right? Of I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I've done these 4 teams to support my manager, support the team, to support department, etc. So you have for yourself your own little perhaps report card or place that you can hold this information that then you can reflect back to when there are moments of anxiety or depression or uncertainty, and you can reflect back to, let's just call it your little box of hype, right? So these are all the great things that I did. And you can think back, wait a minute, I've done this before, right? I've actually navigated a situation before where I'm left to create logistics for 300 people and my boss is unable to be reached through phone or email, right? And so acknowledging and taking stock of your contributions, the ways that you've influenced others, the ways that you've contributed to the team, that pocket of hype helps with the mental health aspects further down the line, and also helps you realize that you have an understanding of what's going on, that perhaps it's your position in the organization that allows, or that places you at the center of the flux or the center of the uncertainty, right? But truly within yourself as a young adult or as an early career professional, you have this body of work, you have these skills, you have your value add written down so that you can access it in an easy way. And I say this because I've written a book called Own Your Influence, navigating and creating impact at your job through an unconventional journey. And it's really for those young career professionals who are looking at the world and saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I'm not sure if I can do this. I don't think I really made a good impression on that person, when actually they did, right? They actually did. And so how can they tap into that bowl of hype and realize that they can look back and see the wonder and their greatness in a place that's written down, that's accessible.
So well said. So well said. Go ahead, Ben.
Divya, I'll just quickly share a very brief anecdote and wrap up. I had dinner with a young adult last evening in DuPont Circle. It was a casual dinner. Shireen, you have friends in the DC area, new friends, and you're my new friend now. But, he had already worked 10 hours and he came out for a quick bite out of, and talk about spontaneity and adaptability. Till half an hour before, we didn't know that we were going to have dinner together, but we quickly decided and made it happen. But he was going to have dinner with me and go back, and he works in the private equity industry, and he was going to go back and work for I said, what time will you finish your day? Probably, oh, we've got a new deal. I'll probably end up working till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So I was just blown away by the hard work and the diligence that these young adults bring. So I'm flipping your question, in fact. So the way I would like to sum up is, for all of us, including them, is inspiration, motivation, and support comes in various shapes and forms. So as long as you have your eyes open and ears open, you can find inspiration, you can find motivation, and you can find support. So be on the lookout for all of that. So that's all I want to say.
100%. And my own thing, and I always say this all the time, like, build your network, build your support system. And, you know, when I've been mentoring young adults, I always say that go back into your friends and family when you're just starting your business, because they obviously believe in you and love you and want to support you. So don't discount that. Build your network, build your support system, you know. So that's the only takeaway I would say, because lean on to them in time of need. Yep.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you put all of these things together, you take the strategic thinking and the looking ahead, and being aware, being able to pull into your own influence and know what that is, to value that. And to Venki's point, to make those connections, to have that growth and that confidence in people that you trust. And Divya, to your point of continuously building that network, and really never saying, okay, well, tick box done. You know, I'm done. Connecting with all my people. That is when you have all the ingredients you need to have a successful, uncommon professional journey.
That's so true.
At that point, you are not beholden to the traditional path. You can make your own, because you've got the support to do it. You can see a little further, and you're not afraid to take those steps. So when I heard all of the three of you speak, and I thought, oh, it's all coming together. It's perfect. I love it. I'm so excited about it. So, yes,
well, thank you. Yeah, no, this was such an just enlightening and energetic and all of that. And, you know, I mean, Venki and we always work with a lot of young adults, and we constantly thrive in that energy. So that's a question that, if you are a young adult watching, and I know Tori Green is watching, we have June is watching, we have a few young adults that are part of this conversation today. And, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to any one of us, because, you know, one of the things that I would like to encourage is, you need guidance. We are here for you, and we are here to be part of your network and your support system, but you have to reach out to us. And that's the only thing I'm going to leave at, unless you have another last word to say.
Nope.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Seriously.
Thank you all.
Appreciate this a lot, and appreciate your time and wisdom and insights. Can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Thanks,
All right. Have a great afternoon, you guys. Hey, and happy World Water Week.
Happy World Water Week.
That's right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.